KETV Newswatch 7, chronicling the stories impacting our community. Stories making a difference. Stories that matter to you. This is KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle.
And good morning, I'm Rob McCartney. Today, another special Commitment 2017 edition of KETV Newswatch 7's Chronicle. We're talking with Mayor Jean Stothert. Last week, her opponent, Heath Mello, is here. Now, if you watch regularly, you know we talked with both of them in depth just last month. Those shows, along with Mello's interview last week, are available on KETV.com. Now, we don't really want to go over the same topics again. Instead, we want to get to know the candidates. So, first off, Mayor Stothert, thanks so much for being here this morning.
You bet. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, if you will, describe for me, what is your management style, your leadership style?
My leadership style, I would consider it consultative. When I make a decision, and I make a lot of very hard decisions every day, I use the same process each time, and that is I gather all the data, I really study the facts, and then I solicit input. And there's not many decisions I make without bringing people to the table. I always tell people it's not really, in my mind, who's at the table, but who's not at the table. So I always want to make sure that the decisions I make are in the best interest of the taxpayers, but I also involve a lot of people for a lot of input. That's why I've created so many advisory boards since I've been mayor. I have over 60 boards and commissions right now for people just to have a voice and give input. And so I think that absolutely would be my leadership style, to consult with people before I make decisions.
Your opponent has said, though, has accused you of having a my way or the highway approach. Is that accurate?
I would say that is not accurate at all. Again, I think anybody that works with me, from my staff to my department directors to members in the community, knows that we work together, and we have achieved so much over the last 4 years because we work with each other. We have so many great public-private partnerships now, and you see the successes all over the city. But that's because we do work together, and I value people's input and support. So that claim is just unfounded and not true at all.
Do you surround yourself with yes men, if you will, yes men, yes women, or do you try to get opposing views? And if you do get those opposing views, how likely is it that those views will actually come to fruition?
Well, I certainly don't surround myself with yes people, because I think what I need is constant input. You know, I work really hard with all of my directors. For an example, I'm not the expert on public works or law enforcement or fire department, and I really depend on those directors, their areas of expertise. So we work together on a daily basis and get input, solicit input, not only from the directors and my staff, but from people all over Omaha. You know, when I've just completed 28 town hall meetings, and when town hall meetings now all over the country can be a little contentious, I still had them. I had 7 every fall since I have been mayor. Some of them have been pretty contentious. But my opinion is when people are just explaining their frustrations and their concerns. And my opinion is always go right back for round 2. I mean, the more I could be out in public and the more I could consult with people, the better. And so I don't mind differing points of view. I need to hear that. I need to hear what people think. You know, sometimes in this job, and as a mayor, you are the executive of the city. There's only one mayor. There's 7 city council members. There's 49 state legislators. But there's only one mayor. And I have to make a lot of hard decisions. But I always want to make sure that decision is in the best interest of the taxpayers, but that decision comes with very careful thought. And so I do solicit a lot of people's opinions, and even when they're differing opinions.
You started your career as a nurse.
Yes.
Why go into nursing?
Why? That was just, number one, I'll start with high school, because one of my favorite subjects has always been the sciences, especially the biological sciences. But I really wanted a career where I felt that I could influence the community. I always feel like everybody has the civic responsibility to give back to the community. And that's why I first became a nurse. I love science, but I also wanted to give back. And when I graduated from nursing school, all of my friends, it was in the St. Louis area, they were going to the nice, luxurious county hospitals. And I chose St. Louis University because I wanted to be right there in the middle of the city, because that's where I felt I could be the best and where I could help people the most. It's a good thing I did, because that's where I met my husband. I met my husband in an intensive care unit at St. Louis University. So that's why I became a nurse. But when I was a nurse, I learned a lot about what I use in my job as mayor. You know, you learn a lot about critical thinking, about getting the right information, about working with people. And when I was a nurse and I became a head nurse, I worked with people in the absolute worst possible conditions that you can imagine. And you learn a lot. You learn to work with a group. You learn how to consult. So I learned a lot of those critical thinking, management type of skills back when I was a nurse and a head nurse that I use today. So it's been very beneficial to me.
So that you've seen people at their worst or in trying times in their life. What's your darkest day?
My darkest day, I would say personally, has to be the day my dad died. My dad died 2 years ago. It'd be 2 years ago, June, and I miss him every day, and I think about him every day. I think professionally, personally, as mayor, it had to be the day that Carrie Orozco was shot and killed, Officer Orozco, or the day that Peyton Benson, the 5-year-old, was shot by stray gunfire. That was some gang activity going on in North Omaha. And those are the days that really tugged at my heart the most, because public safety is my #1 responsibility. And when something like that happens, it just really crushes you. And yet, after those 2 incidences happened, what happened was good in this community, because it really showed how this community draws together and supports each other when these things happen. And I will never forget the day after Carrie Orozco's funeral, and I was with Chief Schmatter in a vehicle at the front of the procession, and to drive from Creighton all the way over to Iowa to the cemetery and just see thousands and thousands of people lining the street in silence. That really made an impact on me. And so something very, very tragic turned to something that really brought the community together. But the day, I remember the day it happened just like it was yesterday.
I think most of us do.
Yes.
What is the mayor's role then in a situation like that? We also had Von Maur, we had the tornado back in the 70s, that tore down Dodge. What is the mayor's role? Do you see it as pulling people together, or taking the bull by the horns, if you will, and saying we need to get this done, this done, this done?
Well, I think it's both, obviously. I mean, as the mayor of the city and the chief executive, I think, you know, the mayor's responsibility is to take a leadership position and try to bring the city together and try to look at what happened, not only address what happened, these tragic incidences, and address it so that we could hopefully prevent it ever from happening again, but also to understand the feelings that are going on in the community, because people are damaged by those types of incidences, especially those that I mentioned that were as a result of gunfire. People tend to, I mean, it scares them. They don't feel safe. And it's really, I think it's my responsibility as mayor to really reach out to the community and make them understand that we are a very connected, giving, compassionate community, and we will always be that way no matter what incident happens. So I think these incidences have really drawn us together. And I feel like we have really glued together because of this, and hopefully my leadership has helped that happen.
You mentioned people may not feel safe. Do you feel safe, your family, you feel safe for your family, no matter where you go in Omaha?
I do, I really do, and I do because I know the city is safer than it was 4 years ago. And you know, I see the statistics that Chief Schmatter gives me. I know that the city is safer than it was before. You know, our homicides are at a 10-year low, the number of shootings at a 13-year low. This is a great representative of what gang activity has been and how it's been reduced. But also there's that perception of safety too. You know, we could give you all the data in the world, and we could show that crime is improving, that we can show that the number of criminal incidences have reduced in the last 2 years as the first 2 years I was mayor. That's out there. But if people don't feel safer, then we really do have still a lot of work to do. And that's why I think it's so important that the chief and I stay connected with a lot of our community groups, because I think the number of violence incidences and the number of shootings, homicides, et cetera, they have improved, but we can't take all the credit ourselves. You know, it's because of a lot of people in the community, a lot of our community groups, from the Empowerment Network to 350, a lot of crime fighting groups, a lot of groups that are addressing crime at the root. These are things that we have been working with actively over the last 4 years. And I think because of that, we again feel connected and we feel like we're making a difference. But we still have to concentrate on those that still have concerns that they aren't safe in this city, because if they don't feel it, then we have a lot more work to do.
Well, let me ask you about this. Recently we had 2 young children shot, presumably accidentally, with by guns, and hopefully they'll be okay, one in the hand, one in the face. What do you do as mayor? Can you do anything as mayor to keep that from happening again, to protect people? Are you fewer guns? What's your position?
Well, you know, some of these are gang related, some are not. Some are domestic, some are not. And so, you know, a lot of it depends on the incident and the crime itself. But I think what I can do as mayor is to create those policies and that environment that lead us towards a safer city. And so adding more police officers like we have, adding more resources like expanding the ShotSpotter technology, having the body cameras on the police officers, creating another police precinct like we are doing for improving our response times. Those are the things that the mayor can do to create that environment and those policies that we feel like will make a big difference in the future. And that's what I have been doing. And I think obviously we've seen a lot of good results.
If you had to pick 3 things to live your life by, value, set your values on, what are those 3 things?
I would say honesty, integrity, and commitment would be 3 of the values that I think about every day as being mayor. You know, honesty, of course, is self-explanatory. You're not going to be successful unless people trust you. And if you're not honest, they won't trust you. And that trust is not something that they just give you. You have to earn it. And so I really hope I've shown the people in Omaha that I have been honest with them. A lot of times I make a decision, and they're very careful decisions, and they're very thoughtful decisions, but they're not always going to make everybody 100% happy. But I still feel like if I'm honest with people and I tell them why I made that decision, the thought that I put into it, and then I stick with it, I think they respect that. Integrity also, you know, and then I always feel like, you know, they might not always be happy with you, but if they really respect what you have done, that makes a difference. And this is a hard job. I love my job, but it is a hard job. And then, of course, that commitment. People really want to see a mayor that is committed to the success of the city, that is committed to the people in the city, and that is committed to making the city a better place. And I hope I have shown people that this job, I love it, it means a lot to me, but I want to be successful, and that's why I work 24/7.
Right. Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses. What's your weakness?
My weaknesses, I would say, number one, I'm a workaholic. I find it really hard to take a day off or to relax and just lay back. I love to read. I haven't read a good book in quite a while because I work so hard. A good example is I went on a very short vacation with my husband to California last winter, and we were in a very nice restaurant having a very nice dinner, and I was on the phone the entire time talking to Public Works about the weather and about our snow plan. Right. I don't stop working, so I don't have a lot of downtime. And I would say another weakness would be I'm impatient, and not with people, but with the process. Because I think in city government, people want things done quickly, and so do I. I have high expectations for myself, but I have high expectations for my staff. And when people want things done yesterday, I want them done yesterday too. And so I want that to move along quicker. You know, another example is labor negotiations. We work so hard and so many long hours on getting all of our city's labor contracts negotiated. And you want them done right away, and they're never done right away. And sometimes they take years. And I'm impatient with that process because I want it to get done, because that's good for the city. And so I think those are my 2 big weaknesses.
Now you travel around, you went to California for vacation, you travel around a bit. Is there another city that you would like to emulate for Omaha? Or is there something about another city that you say, hey, we should take what they have there and bring it here?
You know what? I have lived all over the country. I'm originally from the St. Louis area. I lived in Seattle, went back to St. Louis, went down to Texas, and then up here. So I've experienced a lot of other cities, and I think that people that have never been out of Omaha don't realize what we have. I love it here. I've been all over the country, and I think we have here what other cities admire, what other cities would like to be. And so I'm happy with where we are right here. We have a great city. It is growing. We're at about 449,000 people, almost 450,000 people right now in the city proper. And we have what other cities desire to be.
But
and so I'm happy right here where I am now. When I go to other cities, right, I will tell you, and I love to visit other cities, but I am always glad to get home and think, wow, I'm glad I live in Omaha after I visited here. A lot of cities have a lot to offer. But I think what we have here right now with the investment, with the Fortune 500 companies, the Fortune 1000 companies, with the 2 medical centers like we have, our fastest growing industry right now in Omaha is healthcare and health education, as well as tech jobs. And so we have so much here to offer. I will say I am happy here.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, more of your questions. KATV News Watch 7's Chronicle continues.
And this is the kind of mayor that I think in any other circumstance should be at a point where it would just be a slam dunk. This would be a no-brainer for the voters of the city of Omaha. But what you have here is a clear contrast, and a contrast that I think is getting some national attention. Obviously, last week Bernie Sanders was in, and I think it poses the contrast here quite well between whether you go forward with a mayor who's achieved great things for the city or whether you go backwards.
Well, yet more proof that the race for Omaha mayor has become a national race. Early last week, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker made a stop in Omaha to campaign for Jean Stothert. But will that sway undecided voters to her camp? Just one of the questions we're asking this morning. Special Commitment 2017 edition of Chronicle. We're calling this our lightning round, if you will, for lack of a better term. Mayor Stothert, thanks for joining us again. Trying to cover as many issues as we can. Why is a national politician here for a local election?
Well, good question as far as Bernie Sanders goes. I mean, here is one of the most liberal East Coast politicians in the country.
Scott Walker, too, though.
Coming into Omaha to stump for a mayoral candidate. Scott Walker, I look at very differently, honestly, because he is a Midwestern governor with Midwestern ideals and policies. And we have a lot of similarities. Scott Walker inherited a budget that was in a deficit, and so did I, and we both straightened it out. Scott Walker has created policies that help jobs grow in his state. So have I. We share a lot of conservative values. And so he was coming here to talk about issues. He was not coming here like Bernie Sanders did to say, vote one party. That's all I'm here to talk about. So I think the issues made a big difference.
Okay, from national politician to local politician.
Yes.
Taylor Royal getting in, throwing his support behind you. How does that play?
Well, I think it plays very positive for my campaign. There's a lot of campaign rhetoric that goes on during campaigns. But once it's over, and I've been in a lot of campaigns, you get over it, you move forward. And Taylor Royal and I have very similar philosophies. We're both conservatives. We have very similar philosophies about the budget and about the city itself. This young man did a very good job with the first time he ran, and he ran for the mayor of Omaha, and I think he has a bright future. And his message resonated with some Omahans. And so when he came out immediately with his family and endorsed me and said it was a clear decision now and a clear distinction of who his followers should support, and he did get 11% of the vote, it was very beneficial for my campaign.
Streetcar, too political to get done soon?
No, we've been talking about the streetcar for 20 years, been pressing that pause button for 20 years. All that is going on now is a study that the city isn't even doing. It's going through Metro Transit. There has been no taxpayer dollars spent on the study or committed to the streetcar. My position is this study will be over in October. It is paid by private money and some federal money, and the local match was private money. Let them finish the study, and then we will know if it's even feasible. We don't even know if it's feasible in the city of Omaha yet, but let them finish it and let them get an exact cost. And then if it is feasible, my position has always been, let the taxpayers decide. This will be a community decision and a community vote, but I have not committed any taxpayer dollars to this streetcar, nor have I spent any taxpayer dollars on the studies. The studies were done through Metro Transit.
Top 3 problems for the city are what? Problem number 1?
If I hear 3 things every day, it's keep me safe, fix my streets, lower my taxes. Okay. Those are the 3 things that I hear every day, and those are the 3 things that I am committed to, and those are my priorities. We have made a big priority to our streets as far as the funding in the budget. Keep me safe, obviously. Public safety is improving. We added more police officers. We're building a new 5th police precinct. And then also the last one as far as lowering taxes. Property taxes is the #1 tax issue that not only in Omaha but across the state that people are talking about. And during my last 4 years, I have lowered property taxes not once, the property tax rate, but twice.
People call the mayor's hotline, say they don't get a quick enough response. How do you make the hotline and your office more responsive?
You know, I think generally the response, and in fact, overwhelmingly, the response we get from the hotline is very, very positive. We have really increased the number of calls. I have 3 people in there every day. We call it the hotline because instead of the complaint line, because we want people to know it's just one number you need to know for any question at all, whether it's a pothole or whether I just want to know something. We want to make sure that people use that hotline, and they do. I think people are impatient like I am, though, and that is that they want things done and they want it done right away. But those reports get done, for example, with a pothole now, the average time from the report to the hotline to when it's done is less than 3 days right now. So we really try to give the best service we can, but understand that the hotline people, the staff, work with the city departments too. We want to get it done faster, but I think overwhelmingly the response is very positive of the reception they get when they call the hotline. I've been on the hotline. I came in on the Martin Luther King ice storm, and I took calls all day. And so I know, people sometimes call because they have concerns, but I think actually it's working very well.
All right, up next, a couple of final questions. First, we have a reminder, your comments are an important part of the show. If you want to be heard, email those to news@ketv.com. We love hearing from you, and we'll be right back. You're watching a special Commitment 2017 edition of KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. This morning, we are talking with Omaha Mayor Gene Stothert. Don't have a lot of time left. Wanted to get in a couple more questions.
Sure.
First, explain to me what qualities your opponent has that would have you vote for him.
Well, on Election Day, I'm going to vote for the first female mayor that was elected in the city of Omaha. But I will say a quality of Heath Mello that I really like is he does put his family first. He's a good dad. He talks about his wife, who I know very well. He talks about his kids a lot. And I think that's a great quality that he has. He's a good citizen, he's a good family man, and he's a good dad.
So you could vote for him if you had to.
I'm voting for that female mayor
Right.
on Election Day. That's what I'm going to do.
I understand. If you could look in a crystal ball 20 years from now, what do you want Omaha to look like?
Sure. I want to see Omaha as a more inclusive city than it is right now. I want to see greater neighborhood support. Great neighborhoods mean a great city. I want to see more emphasis on workforce development, job training. And I also want to see a more vibrant downtown. Including a new waterfront as our new signature. I want people coming down to our waterfront and to downtown every day of the year. So those are the things that I'm really concentrating on, but I will continue to my relentless focus on public safety. And that is something that no matter if it's now or 4 years or 10 years from now, we have to continue to make that our top priority, to make Omaha a more safer city. And with that, it will be a more inviting city. I want to make this a city that businesses want to be in and make it easier for businesses to grow and to thrive. And so I will continue focusing on that.
Well, before we go, we have a couple of reminders for you. Thanks also for being here.
You bet.
Before you catch the last debate before the election, we're going to host it. Actually, it's going to be Sunday, May 7th. It will air on KETV from 6 to 7, along with our partners at KOIL. Remember, the last day you can vote early is May 8th. Again, the election is Tuesday, May 9th. Polls open from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. You'll be voting not only for the mayor, but also who will represent you on the city council. So remember, if you missed any part of this show or you want to watch it again, it's online right now on KETV.com. So is the show we did last week with Heath Mello and all the other shows we did regarding the issues. So click on the menu button on the homepage and look for Chronicle. It's just that easy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday morning for another edition of KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.